Know the difference with Annex Wealth Management. Here with Tom Parks, Director of Retirement Plan Services at Annex Wealth Management. Hi, Tom.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And strategies and plans, when you're talking about 401ks and IRAs, they keep changing all the time, from delaying when you must pull money out to giving more flexibility in how you save. And a few of the tweaks, like mandatory Roth conversions for higher earners or employer matching on student loans, that's a big one, rolling 529s into Roths and helping you figure out which ones you need to act on now. So, Tom, let's start with the basics. What's the new thing with requirement minimum distribution that people really need to know?
Okay, so RMDs in 401k plans, the minimum age is increasing to 75. So if you're born between 51 and 59, its age is 73. But if you're born 1960 or later, then it's 75. So the age is going up, which is nice. Roth 401ks also are no longer going to have RMDs. So that's another nice benefit associated with those. And then an additional one. Now, assuming you actually take the RMD when you're supposed to, this won't matter. But for people who, for whatever reason, don't do that, the penalty for missing an RMD is lower. They're dropping it from 50%, which is, you think about that, it's pretty substantial, down to 25, which is still a really big number. And it could even be 10% if it's corrected in time. So the penalties for not taking them are not as bad. So a lot of good stuff there.
And a lot of folks are still working into their 60s. How are the catch-up contributions changing for them? We're hearing a lot about that.
Yes, this is a fun one. So in 401k plans, people between the ages of 60 and 63, that's the key. You got to be in that age range. So the rule is it's $10,000 or 150% of the max. So that it actually, the number ends up being $11,250. So people who are putting money into the 401k plan, who are between the ages of 60 and 63, who want to put away a little bit more, have a super extra contribution they can put in. And then there is a different one, high earners, which they're defining as people who earn $145,000 or more. They are going to have to make catch-up contributions as Roth after tax. So, and that's starting in 2026. That is something that, in a 401k plan with your employer, you're going to want to know if you made more than $145,000 this year. This is going to affect you next year. We are working with our clients on the 401k side with this right now to make sure, kind of identifying those people so we know who they're going to be, reminding our clients that this stuff is something that they have to look out for. So I would recommend, if you are one of those people who is making over $145,000 a year, that you're anticipating this for next year. If you're over 50, you want to put away a catch-up contribution, know that you're going to need to do that in Roth. But also, if you're an employer, if you're an HR professional, somebody who's in charge of your company's 401k plan, you're going to want to keep an eye out on this stuff as well. So all kind of intricate, really detailed stuff, but very important.
You set people up for reminders of these things as they change, as life events happen to them, and as some of the rules change as well.
There's so many moving targets here. The people are changing in age, their income is changing, the rules are changing. It's just, you constantly need to keep an eye on this stuff, which is what we do for our clients.
And a lot of creative ways to save. Can you talk about the new matching and rollover options?
Yes, so this one isn't really new, the Roth employer contribution. So being able to have an employer contribution, all of those are pre-tax now, but the ability is there to make those Roth. So that is something that has been allowed by the regulation. That part's actually not new as of this year. It's just that it hasn't really happened a lot because people haven't figured out the mechanics of how it's going to work. Because if an employer, let's say Annex provides us an employer contribution, I say, hey, I want that to be Roth. Well, I need to pay the taxes on that as the participant or the employee. And how that works mechanically is what's getting in the way of this really being adopted by a lot of plans. I think that's going to work itself out from a technology perspective. So Rothification of employer contributions is a big one. Student loan payments qualifying for employer matches. It would be a real draw to get people participating in the retirement plan to say, hey, you can get some of this match for student loans. So that is something there. However, the plan would need to be amended to allow for that. And then one that is separate from the 401k space, but is kind of an interesting one, unused 529 money can be rolled into Roth IRAs. Now, there's a variety of rules and limitations associated with that, but just the idea that if you were, this actually happened with my daughter. So she went to cosmetology school. There's a little extra money in her 529 plan. Once she's earning enough money in her job, now she could keep that money to say, hey, I might have some future education, which I'm sure she will. You could keep using it for that. However, if you determine, no, I'm really kind of done with education, I got this extra money in my 529, there are ways that you can divert some of that into Roth IRA. Like I said, a lot more detail on that one, but it's a great concept.
And I think it's different from when you and I grew up. I have kids that are 9 and 11. So if they have their 529s left over and they're not going to school for all 4 years, what are we doing with that money?
Right. And at 9 and 11, with what's happening in technology, all that, who knows what college is going to look like?
A lot of different opportunities, a lot of different rules, a lot of updates, but they are rolling out over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of the stuff gets overwhelming, but if you got the right people helping you out, it'll all work out.
You can walk through it with somebody like Tom Parks, Director of Retirement Plan Services, Annex Wealth Management. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Get started, annexwealth.com.